The used mop hit my granite countertop with a hollow thud. My mother's lipstick smile didn't reach her eyes as she announced, "A housewarming gift for your quaint little rental." I'm Amelia, and this is the story of how I turned a dirty mop into the sweetest revenge. Oh, come on, Mom, be nice. My brother Evan chuckled, swirling his wine glass. I'm sure Amelia will put it to good use. These floors look like they haven't seen proper care in years. I gripped the mop handle, forcing myself to smile. 5 years of careful planning had led to this moment, and I wasn't about to let their predictable cruelty derail me. Thanks for coming, everyone. The apartment may not be much, but it's home. Sweetheart, my father cleared his throat, you know we would have helped with a down payment if you'd just gotten a real job like your brother. Investment banking has treated him well, hasn't it? Evan beamed, pulling his wife Tamara closer. Speaking of which, we just finished renovating the master bath in our condo. Italian marble, heated floors. You should see it, sis. The condo you got as a gift from Mom and Dad? I couldn't resist asking, though I already knew the answer. The $200,000 down payment was all anyone in our social circle talked about for months. Now, Amelia, my mother interrupted, touching up her already perfect hair in my hallway mirror, you know we support both our children equally. We just invest where we see potential. My best friend Serenity, watching from the kitchen, nearly choked on her drink. She knew everything, my secret tech consulting firm, the real story behind this rental, the trap I'd set. But for now, she just raised an eyebrow and kept quiet. Did you at least get that receptionist job you mentioned? My mother pressed, inspecting my IKEA furniture with barely concealed disdain. The one at that startup. I thought about the 3 Fortune 500 contracts sitting in my office downtown, the team of 30 developers I managed, the patents pending in my name. Still figuring things out, Mom. At 28? Evan snorted. Maybe if you finished your MBA instead of chasing pipe dreams. Speaking of dreams, I cut in smoothly, checking my phone. The landlord should be here any minute. He wanted to stop by and welcome everyone. My mother's head snapped up. The landlord coming to a tenant's housewarming? That's unusual. Oh, he's very hands-on with his properties, I replied, watching her face carefully. In fact, he's quite interested in getting to know all his tenants personally. Probably making sure you can actually make rent, Evan muttered to Tamara, who had the grace to look uncomfortable. The doorbell rang and I felt my pulse quicken. Showtime. I'll get it, I said, moving toward the door. Behind me, I heard my mother's stage whisper to my father, Stephen, straighten your tie. If he owns property in this area, he might be worth networking with. I opened the door to find Eduardo exactly as planned, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit that probably cost more than my brother's monthly mortgage payment. His dark eyes met mine with the faintest hint of amusement. Welcome to the building, he said loudly enough for everyone to hear, extending his hand. I'm Eduardo Gardner, the owner. I trust you're settling in well? The silence behind me was deafening. I turned to watch my family's faces as the name registered. Eduardo Gardner, CEO of Gardner Tech, the fastest growing technology company on the West Coast. My mother's mouth hung open slightly, her wine glass frozen halfway to her lips. Everyone, I said sweetly, meet my landlord. Evan recovered first, practically shoving past me to shake Eduardo's hand. Sir, it's an honor. I actually tried to get my firm to underwrite your last funding round, but... Ah, yes, Eduardo cut in smoothly. I remember declining that offer. His eyes flickered to the mop still lying on my counter. Amelia, I hope you're finding everything to your satisfaction. The smart home systems we discussed are being installed next week. My mother's wine glass nearly slipped from her fingers. Systems you discussed? I picked up the mop, testing its weight in my hands. Oh, yes, Eduardo and I have had several discussions about the building's technology infrastructure, haven't we? Eduardo's smile was shark-like. Indeed, we have. In fact, that's partly why I'm here. There's something rather important we need to announce to everyone. The mop felt lighter now, almost like a conductor's baton, and I was about to lead my family through a symphony of their own making. The sound of Evan's laughter echoed from my kitchen as I scrubbed a second-hand plate in the sink. Can you believe she still uses these IKEA dishes? It's like she's stuck in college. I scrubbed harder, letting the running water mask the conversation, but some words still cut through. Remember when she tried to pitch that ridiculous app idea at Thanksgiving? My mother's voice dripped with familiar disappointment. Stephen, what was it called again? Safe space or something equally absurd, my father replied. Wanted us to invest $20,000 in it, as if she knew the first thing about business. The plate in my hands was spotless now, but I kept scrubbing. That Thanksgiving was 5 years ago. I developed an algorithm to help domestic violence survivors find safe housing and resources. My parents had laughed it off as another one of my phases. 3 months later, I sold the patent for 6 figures and used it to start my consulting firm. Amelia? Tamara's voice startled me. She stood in the kitchen doorway holding an empty wine glass. Need help with those? I'm good, I said, turning off the water. My phone buzzed, Eduardo's name flashing on the screen. I quickly flipped it face down. Tamara's eyes narrowed slightly. You know, it's interesting that Eduardo Gardner would come to a tenant's housewarming. Before I could respond, Serenity swooped in. Hey, girl, where should I put these appetizers? The fancy ones your brother's wife brought are looking a little lonely out there. I shot her a grateful look. Serenity had been there the night I'd finally broken down 3 years ago, sitting on her bathroom floor after another family dinner where Evan had announced his promotion. You don't need their approval, she'd said, holding me while I cried. But if you want revenge, let's make it count. A crash from the living room jolted me back to the present. My mother had knocked over a vase and water was seeping into the hardwood floors. Oh dear, she simpered, not moving to help. Amelia, where's that lovely housewarming gift we brought? I grabbed the mop, fighting back memories of my 16th birthday. They'd given Evan a car. I got career counseling pamphlets and a gym membership. Here, I said, tossing the mop toward her. She recoiled like I'd thrown a snake. Darling, I don't actually clean. That's what services are for. She glanced around my apartment. Though I suppose in your situation you have to make do. Eduardo, who had been chatting with my father, suddenly appeared beside me. Actually, the building provides cleaning services to all residents, part of our premium amenities package. My mother's eyes widened. Premium? But surely Amelia couldn't afford. Mom, I cut in, maybe we should all sit down. Eduardo has that announcement to make. Yes, please, Evan smirked, lounging on my sofa. I'm dying to hear how my little sister landed an apartment in a Gardner property. Must be quite the story. If he only knew. I caught Serenity's eye across the room. She was practically vibrating with anticipation. We'd rehearsed this moment countless times. Before that, Eduardo said smoothly, I'd love to hear more about everyone's work. Evan, you mentioned investment banking? My brother launched into his usual spiel about market analysis and client portfolios. I used the distraction to slip into my home office, needing a moment to breathe. On my desk sat a framed photo, the only one I kept from childhood. 10-year-old me at a science fair, proudly holding up a basic coding project. In the background, my parents beamed at Evan, who'd won first place for a baking soda volcano. You okay? Serenity asked softly, appearing in the doorway. I nodded, straightening my shoulders. just remembering why we're doing this. Because they deserve it. Because I deserve better. My phone buzzed again. A text from Beckett, Eduardo's right-hand man. Everything's set. Time to make the meat crow. I typed back, let's feast. Returning to the living room, I found Tamara examining my bookshelf, lingering over titles about tech entrepreneurship and startup management. Our eyes met and something passed between us. Recognition, maybe, or warning. Amelia, my father called out. Eduardo was just telling us about his company's latest acquisition. Fascinating stuff, though probably over your head. I smiled, feeling the weight of 5 years of secrets, of careful planning, of quiet triumph. Actually, Dad, that's what the announcement is about. Eduardo, shall we? He stood, commanding the room's attention with effortless authority. Yes, I believe it's time. Everyone, I'd like to tell you about an exciting new partnership that's going to change everything. My mother leaned forward eagerly, no doubt already planning how to leverage this connection for Evan's benefit. If only she knew she was about to witness her daughter's greatest achievement and her own worst nightmare. Eduardo commanded the room like he owned it, which technically he did. Before I make my announcement, I'd love to hear more about this family dynamic. Amelia rarely talks about her personal life at the office. At the office? My mother interrupted, pearl necklace clutched tight. You mean the building's management office? Something like that, Eduardo smiled, sharing a quick glance with me. Tell me, what was Amelia like growing up? My father puffed up immediately. Well, Evan here was always the driven one, National Honor Society, captain of the debate team. Amelia was more. He paused, searching for a diplomatic word. Creative. Creative? Eduardo raised an eyebrow. How so? She was always tinkering with computers, Evan jumped in. Waste of time, really. Could have been networking, building real connections like I was. Beckett chose that moment to walk in, tablet in hand. Miss Olson, sorry to interrupt, but we need your signature on the final contract revisions. Which Miss Olson? Tamara asked sharply. The one who. Beckett caught my warning look. The one who rents here. My mother was practically salivating now, watching Eduardo with predatory interest. You know, my son's firm has been looking to expand their tech division. Perhaps we could discuss opportunities over dinner sometime? Actually, Eduardo replied, I never mix business with pleasure. Well, almost never. He smiled in my direction, and I bit back a laugh as my mother's face fell. Speaking of business, my father interjected, Eduardo, I hope you thoroughly vetted your tenants here. People like Amelia often don't understand real responsibility. No offense, sweetheart. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Eduardo's casual demeanor vanished, replaced by something harder. People like Amelia? You know, my father waved dismissively. The creative types, dreamers. Not like Evan. Now there's someone who understands the real world. Is that so? Eduardo's voice was dangerously soft. Tell me, Evan, what's your take on the emerging blockchain security protocols and financial technology? My brother's face went blank. Well, blockchain is certainly innovative. Amelia, Eduardo turned to me, how would you explain the implementation challenges of quantum-resistant cryptography in modern banking systems? 5 years of secret success burned in my throat. But not yet. Not quite yet. Oh, I wouldn't know about all that, I said lightly, watching Evan's relief. I just try to keep my floors clean with my lovely new mop. Serenity snorted into her wine glass. Speaking of floors, my mother tried to redirect. Eduardo, this building must be worth what? 20, 30 million? Such an achievement for someone so young. The property itself is valued at 50 million, Eduardo corrected. but the real value lies in its technological infrastructure. We're implementing a revolutionary smart building system. Isn't that right, Amelia? Tamara's head snapped up. She'd been unusually quiet, watching everything with increasing suspicion. I wouldn't know anything about that, I said, but my voice wavered slightly. Nonsense, Eduardo continued. You're being far too modest. The security protocols alone are. Would anyone like more wine? I interrupted quickly. But Beckett, bless his terrible timing, chose that moment to return. Ms. Olson, CEO, the developers are ready for the final review whenever you. CEO? Evan laughed. Of what? The cleaning crew? The room fell silent. Beckett froze, horrified at his slip. Tamara's eyes widened in understanding. My mother's wine glass trembled slightly. Eduardo broke the tension with a slow clap. Well, this is getting interesting, isn't it? Amelia, my father's voice was sharp now. What's going on here? I opened my mouth to respond, but my mother's phone chimed. She glanced down, then went pale. Stephen, she whispered, look at this. They huddled over the phone, and I knew exactly what they were seeing. The Google results for my name, carefully hidden for years, now flooding their screens. Tech, innovator, Forbes, 30 under 30. The woman revolutionizing smart building security. Impossible, Evan muttered, looking over their shoulders. This has to be someone else. Oh, no, brother dear, I finally said, letting 5 years of satisfaction color my voice. That's all me, and we're just getting started. But, but you're just, my mother stammered. Just what, Mom? A disappointment? A dreamer? The daughter you gave a used mop to while writing my brother a check for $200,000? Eduardo stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder. Should we tell them the real reason I'm here? I nodded, savoring the moment. Yes, I think it's time they understood exactly who they've been looking down on all these years. The mop still lay where my mother had dropped it, a symbol of everything they thought I was worth. By the time this night was over, that mop would be worth more than my brother's entire condo. Before we continue, Eduardo announced, let's talk about safe space. My father's wine glass froze halfway to his lips. That ridiculous app idea? Yes, that ridiculous idea. Eduardo's voice hardened. The one that's now protecting over 50,000 domestic violence survivors nationwide. The one your daughter sold for enough money to start her own company. But, my mother sputtered, that was just a pipe dream. You said it would never work, Stephen. Oh, it worked, Serenity chimed in, unable to contain herself. I remember the night she closed that deal. While you were all celebrating Evan's promotion, Amelia was signing a six-figure contract. The memory hit me like a tidal wave. That night, sitting in my cramped studio apartment, hands shaking as I signed the papers, my phone buzzing with texts from my family about Evan's celebration dinner, the one I hadn't been invited to. This is absurd. Evan stood up, face flushed. If you're so successful, why the charade? Why pretend to rent this place? Because, I said quietly, I wanted you all to show your true colors one last time, and you didn't disappoint. My mother's carefully maintained facade cracked. We always supported you. Really? Eduardo cut in. Like the time you told her to get a real job or move out? Or when you said her weight would embarrass the family at Evan's wedding? How dare you? My father started. How dare I what? Eduardo's voice was steel. Tell the truth? Your daughter built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch while you were busy writing checks to your son? She's revolutionizing building security systems across the country. This entire complex runs on her technology. Tamara stood up suddenly. That's why you're really here, isn't it? This isn't about a tenant. This is about business. Give the lady a prize, Beckett muttered. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. If this is true, why keep it secret? Why let us believe? Because you never deserved to know. The words exploded out of me. Every achievement, every milestone you dismissed. When I launched my first project in college, you told me to focus on finding a husband instead. When I tried to explain my work, you talked over me to praise Evan's golf score. We were trying to protect you, my mother pleaded. The tech world is harsh. Harsh? I laughed. Harsh is watching your parents hand your brother everything while treating you like a burden. Harsh is hearing them brag about his mediocre achievements while ignoring your successes. Eduardo stepped forward. Amelia's company, Olson Tech, just signed a $100 million contract with my firm. We're implementing her security systems in every Gardner property nationwide. The silence was deafening. $100 million? Evan whispered, sinking back onto the sofa. But that's not the best part, I continued, walking over to pick up the mop. This apartment is not a rental. I own the entire floor. My mother grabbed her pearls. That's impossible. The down payment alone would be more than what you gave Evan for his condo. I twirled the mop handle. Funny how that works out. You've made your point, my father said stiffly. You're successful. Congratulations. Was this whole evening just to humiliate us? No, I replied. It was to show you exactly what you missed out on, what you were too blind to see. Tamara suddenly laughed. The books on the shelf, the cleaning service, the way you kept checking your phone. It was all there, wasn't it? We just didn't want to see it. Speaking of seeing things, Beckett interrupted, Ms. Olson, CEO Olson, the development team is still waiting for that final review. Of course, I nodded. Eduardo, shall we show them what we've been working on? He smiled, pulling out his tablet. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present the future of smart building technology designed by the daughter you never believed in. As Eduardo launched into the presentation, I watched my family's faces, my mother's carefully constructed world of social hierarchy crumbling, my father's rigid beliefs about success shattering, and Evan, dear golden boy Evan, finally seeing his sister step out of the shadows he'd cast. This is what a pipe dream looks like, I said softly, but my voice carried through the room. This is what happens when you underestimate the wrong person. The mop in my hands felt different now, not a symbol of their disdain, but a reminder of how far I'd come, how far I'd go. Now, I smiled, channeling every ounce of professional authority I'd earned. Let's talk about that partnership announcement, unless anyone else has cleaning supplies they'd like to give me. Excuse me, Tamara said suddenly. Amelia, could you show me where the bathroom is? I recognized the look in her eyes. This wasn't about finding the bathroom. Of course. Follow me. The moment we were out of earshot, Tamara grabbed my arm. You planned this whole thing, didn't you? The apartment, the landlord visit, everything? Would it matter if I did? She leaned against the bathroom door. You know what's funny? Last Christmas, Evan was bragging about some investment deal he closed. You sat there quietly working on your laptop. I remember thinking, she's not even trying to compete. I stopped competing with Evan years ago, I said. That's when I started winning. They're horrible to you, Tamara said bluntly. I knew it, but I never said anything. It was easier to go along with it. Like when they excluded me from the wedding planning because I wouldn't understand sophisticated events. She had the grace to look ashamed. I should have stood up for you. My phone buzzed. A text from Beckett. They just Googled your company. Valerie's face turned gray. Look, Tamara continued, I know this isn't my business, but a knock interrupted us. Amelia? My mother's voice was shrill. We need to talk. Now. I opened the door to find her clutching her phone, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. Care to explain this? She thrust the screen at me, showing Olson Tech's website, my website, with my face prominently displayed on the leadership page. Explain what? That I'm successful? That I built something without your help or approval? This says you're worth, she squinted at the screen, $30 million? 42 after the Gardner contract, I corrected. But who's counting? Why didn't you tell us? Her voice cracked. We're your family. Are we? Tamara cut in unexpectedly. Because from what I've seen tonight, you're more like shareholders who decided Amelia wasn't worth the investment. My mother recoiled as if slapped. How dare you? Everything we did was for our children's benefit. No, I said quietly. Everything you did was for Evan's benefit. I was just the backup plan that never paid off. Until now. We returned to the living room to find Eduardo deep in conversation with my father, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. Ah, perfect timing, Eduardo smiled. I was just explaining to your father how we met. Remember that tech conference in Seattle? I nodded, watching my father's face. The one where you told me not to waste my time attending? The very same, Eduardo continued, where Amelia's presentation on AI-driven security systems caught everyone's attention, including mine. Evan, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly spoke up. So this whole time, while we thought you were failing, you were actually building an empire? Serenity supplied helpfully. Being a badass? Making more money than you'll see in a decade? Serenity, I warned, but I couldn't help smiling. I think, Eduardo said, standing up, it's time for that announcement. Beckett, would you do the honors? Beckett cleared his throat and pulled out an official-looking document. Gardner Technologies is proud to announce its strategic partnership with Olson Tech, including a full acquisition of the building security infrastructure and a seat on the board for CEO Amelia. A seat on the board, my father interrupted. But that's a position you said I'd never be qualified for, I finished. Funny how life works out. My mother had sunk into an armchair, still staring at her phone. All those times you said you were working late at your receptionist job? I was running my company, building something that matters, not that any of you bothered to ask. We could have helped, Evan protested weakly. Like you helped when I asked for startup funding or when I needed support at my first investor meeting. I picked up the mop again, running my fingers along its worn handle. No, I think your housewarming gift says everything about how much you wanted to help. Tamara moved to stand beside me. For what it's worth, I think you're incredible, and I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. The room fell silent as Eduardo pulled out one final document. Now, about the terms of our partnership. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Beckett. Ready for the final blow? I looked around at my family, my mother's shattered illusions, my father's rigid disbelief, Evan's crumbling superiority. The revenge I'd planned for so long was playing out perfectly. So why didn't it feel as satisfying as I'd imagined? Yes, I texted back to Beckett, let's finish this. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't in the destruction you cause, but in the success they can never take credit for. I straightened my shoulders and faced my family. Now, about that announcement. Before we proceed, Eduardo said, standing at the center of my living room, I want to clarify something about Amelia's residence here. My mother perked up, probably hoping to find a flaw in my success story. Yes? Amelia doesn't rent this apartment, Eduardo stated flatly. She redesigned the entire building's security infrastructure. This floor was part of her compensation package. Compensation, my father sputtered. For an app? For creating the most advanced residential security system in the country, Beckett corrected, pulling up a presentation on the TV screen. What you're looking at is Olson Tech's proprietary technology, currently valued at 800 million, I cut in, watching their faces. That's the latest valuation. After the Gardner partnership, we're expecting it to hit 1 billion by next quarter. The sound of my mother's wine glass shattering on the floor punctuated the silence. But, Evan stammered, you're my little sister. You're supposed to be the family failure. Evan, Tamara hissed, but the damage was done. The family failure, I repeated slowly, walking over to the mop they'd brought. You know what's funny? While you were all congratulating yourselves on Evan's promotion last year, I was closing a deal with the Department of Defense. The Pentagon? My father whispered. Turns out they're very interested in technology that protects people, I continued. Unlike some people in this room. Eduardo cleared his throat. The partnership announcement, if we may? Of course, I nodded. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Eduardo Gardner, CEO of Gardner Technologies, and my new business partner. Partner? My mother's voice was faint. Actually, Eduardo smiled. Amelia's being modest. She's not just a partner. As of today, she's joining our board of directors and leading our global security division. The contract value is 200 million, I finished, exactly 1,000 times more than the down payment you gave Evan. My father stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. You expect us to believe that our Amelia, who couldn't even finish her MBA, I did finish it, I interrupted, online, while building my company. Not that any of you noticed. Serenity clinked her glass with Beckett's. The tea is scalding tonight. But why keep it secret? Tamara asked. Why let them treat you like this for so long? Because, I said, meeting each of their eyes in turn, I wanted you all to show exactly who you are when you think someone is beneath you, and you performed beautifully. My mother burst into tears, not genuine ones, but the perfectly crafted sobs she'd perfected over years of social manipulation. We only wanted what was best for you. No, I corrected her. You wanted what was best for your image. Evan was the golden child, and I was the embarrassment you needed to fix. That's not fair, Evan protested. We're family. Family? I laughed. Family doesn't mock their daughter's dreams. Family doesn't exclude their sister from celebrations. Family doesn't bring a used mop to a housewarming party while writing six-figure checks for their other child. Eduardo stepped forward, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. The contracts are ready, Amelia. Shall we make it official? My father's face had turned an alarming shade of purple. You orchestrated this whole evening just to humiliate us? No, I said quietly. I orchestrated it to show you exactly what you missed out on, what you were too blind to see. No amount of contracts will make them proud of you, Evan spat, standing up. You'll always be the disappointment who had to prove herself. The room fell silent. Even Tamara stepped away from him in shock. You're right, I said, my voice steady. I'll always be the one who had to prove herself. And look what happened. I proved I'm worth 1,000 of you. My father stormed toward the door, pausing only to growl, This isn't over. Actually, Eduardo called after him, it is. The press release goes out tomorrow morning. Tech prodigy Amelia takes board seat at Gardner Technologies. I'm sure your country club friends will find it fascinating reading. My mother followed my father, mascara streaming down her face. Evan grabbed his coat, but Tamara stayed seated. I think, she said carefully, I'll stay and help clean up, if that's okay. I nodded, watching my family's retreat. The door slammed behind them with a satisfying thud. Serenity raised her glass. to the family failure who just became their biggest success. But as the others toasted, I stared at the mop still lying on my floor. Victory tasted different than I'd imagined, less sweet, more complex. Eduardo touched my arm gently. Ready for what comes next? I picked up the mop, feeling its weight one last time. More than ready. Let's show them what a disappointment can do. I found my mother waiting by the elevator, alone. Her mascara had left black trails down her perfectly powdered cheeks. "Where's Dad?" I asked, keeping my distance. "Waiting in the car," she said, her voice small. He can't look at you right now." "Funny. That's how I felt for 28 years." She flinched. "We gave you everything." "No," I corrected her. "You gave Evan everything. You gave me conditions, criticism, and a used mop." "Is that what this is about? Money?" She reached for her purse. "If you needed help, stop." My voice cut through the hallway. "This isn't about money. This is about you never seeing me, really seeing me. Of course I see you. You're my daughter." "Am I? Because when I won my first coding competition in high school, you were too busy planning Evan's graduation party to attend? When I landed my first major client, you told me to focus on losing weight instead." The elevator dinged, but neither of us moved. "We pushed you because we wanted you to be better," she whispered. "Better?" I laughed. "I built $1 million company from scratch. I protected thousands of abuse survivors. I revolutionized the building security, but none of that matters because it wasn't the kind of better you wanted, was it?" "Amelia?" "No, let me finish. You wanted me to be pretty, quiet, and married, to shrink myself into something that wouldn't overshadow your precious son. Well, guess what? I'm done shrinking." The elevator dinged again. "Your father and I," she started, then stopped. "We didn't mean to." "To what? To make me feel worthless? To treat me like a burden? To show up at my housewarming with a dirty mop while Evan gets a down payment for a luxury condo?" Serenity appeared in my apartment doorway, watching silently. "We were trying to protect you." My mother's voice rose. "The business world is cruel to women. We didn't want you to get hurt." "So you hurt me first?" I stepped closer. "You know what's cruel, Mom? Watching your parents believe in your brother's every dream while dismissing yours as delusions. That's cruel." "You're being vindictive," she accused, tears starting again. "Yes," I agreed, "I am, because for once I get to show you exactly who I am without your permission or approval." Eduardo emerged from my apartment, his presence commanding even in silence. "Mr. Gardner," my mother straightened, switching instantly to her society smile. "Surely we can discuss this like family." "Family?" Eduardo's voice was ice. "From what I've seen tonight, you wouldn't know the meaning of the word." My phone buzzed, a notification about an old voicemail. As I pulled it out, I accidentally hit play, and my father's voice, slurred and angry, filled the hallway. "Listen here, Amelia. Had a few drinks. Thinking about that tech thing you're doing. You know why I can't support it? Because you might actually succeed. And then what would happen to Evan? He's always been less capable than you. We had to make sure he had every advantage. You were always going to be fine, too smart for your own good, just like your Aunt Maria before she outshined everyone and tore the family apart." The voicemail cut off. My mother's face had gone white. "When was that from?" I asked quietly. 2 years ago," she whispered. "Your father's birthday. He made me promise never to tell you." "So you knew," I said. "You knew I could succeed, and you actively worked to prevent it." "We were protecting the family." "No," Eduardo cut in. "You were protecting your son's ego at the expense of your daughter's future." The elevator dinged a third time. "This is your last chance," I told my mother. "Right now. Tell me the truth. Why did you really hold me back?" She looked at the elevator, then at me, then down at her expensive shoes. "Because because you were always stronger than Evan, smarter, more capable, and a family needs balance." "Balance," I repeated. "Well, congratulations. The balance is finally broken." "What do you mean?" "I mean, tomorrow morning, when that press release goes out, everyone will know exactly what you tried to suppress. Every country club member, every family friend, every business associate will see what your daughter achieved, despite you, not because of you." The elevator doors opened one final time. "Goodbye, Mom," I said. "Give Dad my regards, and keep the mop. You'll need it to clean up the mess you made." She stepped into the elevator, her small frame suddenly looking ancient. As the doors closed, she whispered something that sounded like, "I'm sorry." But I couldn't tell if she was apologizing to me or to herself. Eduardo placed a hand on my shoulder. "You don't owe them ashes just because they gave you fire." I nodded, feeling lighter somehow. "No, but I do owe myself the truth, and now everyone knows it." The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I hung the framed mop on the wall. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. "Interesting choice of decor," Eduardo commented from the doorway. "Most CEOs go for abstract art." "Most CEOs didn't have to scrub their way to the top." I adjusted the frame slightly. Besides, it matches my aesthetic. My phone buzzed. Tamara calling. I put her on speaker. "Have you seen the news?" She sounded breathless. "It's everywhere. The partnership announcement, your story. Evan's firm is in chaos because their clients are jumping ship to work with you instead." "How's he taking it?" He's, she hesitated. "We're getting divorced." I sat down. "Tamara, I'm sorry." "Don't be. Your housewarming party opened my eyes. I've been living in their twisted version of success, and I'm done. Actually, I was wondering if Olsen Tech is hiring." "You have an MBA in marketing, right?" I smiled at Eduardo, who nodded. "Come by this afternoon. We'll talk." After hanging up, I checked my emails. Hundreds of messages from old classmates, family friends, business contacts, and one from my father. Subject line, "Your mother is in tears. Delete." "You know," Eduardo said, settling into the chair across from me, "revenge usually leaves people feeling empty, but you seem lighter," I finished, "like I can finally breathe." Serenity burst in, waving her phone. "Girl, you're trending. Dad's Mop Girl is taking over Twitter. People are sharing their own stories of family favoritism and revenge." "Speaking of family," Eduardo cleared his throat, "your Aunt Maria called. The one your father mentioned in that voicemail. She runs a tech incubator in Silicon Valley and wants to mentor you." I laughed. "The aunt they warned me not to become? Perfect." My office door opened again, Beckett looking unusually serious. "Your brother's here." "Send him in." Evan entered looking disheveled. No designer suit today, just wrinkled khakis and a polo shirt. "Nice office," he muttered. "Better than a used mop?" He flinched. "I deserve that. Look, Amelia, I didn't know." "What didn't you know, Evan? That I was capable? That I was worthy? Or that your perfect life was built on keeping me small? That it hurt you so much?" He slumped into a chair. I thought, I thought you were happy being the artistic one, the creative one. I never realized we were crushing you." "Well, now you know. Mom and Dad are a mess. Dad's drinking, Mom's reputation is shattered. Was it worth it?" I stood up, walking to the mop on my wall. "See this? Every time they handed you something valuable, they handed me something used, broken, or cheap. It wasn't about money. It was about worth. They decided my worth early on, and nothing I did could change their minds." "Until now," he said quietly. Until now. I can't fix it, he admitted. But I can say I'm sorry, and I can mean it. I studied my brother, really looked at him, maybe for the first time. Behind the golden boy facade, I saw something new respect. You're right, I said. You can't fix it, but you can do better, starting with tomorrow. He nodded, standing to leave. At the door, he turned back. That app you made? Safe Space? Mom used it last night to find somewhere to stay away from Dad. After he left, Eduardo touched my arm. You okay? Better than okay. I smiled. I'm free. My phone buzzed one last time. A text from my mother. The mop was wrong. You were never wrong. You were just stronger than we could handle. I didn't respond. Some cleaning jobs are too big for a single mop. Ready for the board meeting? Eduardo asked. Actually, I grinned, I have a better idea. Serenity, call Aunt Maria. Beckett, get the development team. It's time to expand Safe Space. Because the best revenge isn't just success, it's helping others succeed, Eduardo finished. I looked around my office, at the mop that started it all, at the friends who became family, at the empire I built from nothing but determination and spite. My floors are clean now, I said, straightening my shoulders. But it turns out the real dirt was always in the foundation. Time to build something new. Eduardo held the door open. Lead the way, Ms. CEO. And I did, leaving behind the weight of expectations, the burden of being less, the exhaustion of proving my worth. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming exactly who you were meant to be. No permission required. Just don't forget to bring a mop. You never know when you'll need to clean house.